Good day, everyone. I am Clifford Tyrus, and I will be reporting about the limits to growth and the development goals. All right. In our 18 or 19 or maybe 20 years of existence here on Earth, I know that we have already knew about these terrific phenomena that occur and might already experience this for sure, such as ecological disasters, climate change, hunger, overpopulation, and shortage of resources. And in regards to these terrific phenomenons, there will only be one question that seeks to find an answer, and this question is: can planet Earth still be saved, or is it too late? And when we say planet Earth, we are included in it. Alright, this question was already asked by Dennis Meadows, an American scientist and systems analyst who is widely recognized for his work in the field of sustainability and environmental dynamics. Dennis Meadows born on June 7, 1942 in the United States, and he served as a research director at MIT's System Dynamics Group, where he conducted research on dynamic systems, policy modeling, and computer simulation. One of Dennis Meadows' most notable works is The Limits to Growth, which is published on 1972, and it is a book, by the way. He authored that together with his wife, Donella Meadows, and his colleagues, Horgan Renders and William W. Behrens III. This book, commissioned by the Club of Rome, was a groundbreaking study that used computer modeling to analyze the consequences of exponential economic and population growth on Earth's finite resources. Limits to Growth introduced the concept of overshoot and collapse, which later on we will discuss on that, as a result of unchecked growth and finite planetary limits. So when we say unchecked growth, it simply means that an uncontrolled growth. All right. Before we discuss about the central messages of the limits to growth, let us discuss first the concept of exponential growth. All right. Limits to growth emphasizes the concept of exponential growth, which refers to the rapid and continuous increase in a quantity over time, which simply means that in the context of the book, it pertains to the exponential growth of human population and its associated demands on resources and production. And how they stated that they used computer modeling to show that exponential growth, population, and industrial production would lead to an unsustainable strain on Earth's finite resources. All right, the limits to growth's message is that this type of growth cannot continue indefinitely on a planet with finite resources, as it would eventually lead to resource depletion, environmental degradation, and a collapse in living standards. So that's the concept of exponential growth. All right, the limits to growth also highlighted the complex and interdependent relationship between population growth, resource availability, and environmental pollution. So, why is it that there is an interdependent relationship between population growth and resource availability? Like, for example, when the population increases, the demand of our natural resources also increases. So, why is that? They they stated that in the fact that as the global population increases, there it is an indication that there is a higher demand for our natural resources, such as fossil fuels, minerals, and arable land to sustain and improve living standards. Kaya 'di ba, in order for us to live, we consume, and the number one that we consume is that our natural resources. So that explains the relationship between population and resources. So why is environmental pollution also increases that when our like the demand of our natural resources increases, our environmental pollution also increases. Why is that? Because the extraction and consumption of these resources can lead to pollution and ecological degradation, including air and water pollution, deforestation, and worse, habitat destruction. The limits to growth illustrates how these dynamics are interconnected, with the population growth driving increased resource consumption and subsequently generating more pollution. So that's the relationship between population, resources, and pollution. The concept of overshoot is central to the book's message, as it refers to a situation where humanity's demands on resources exceed the planet's ability to regenerate those resources or absorb the associated pollution. It simply means that the supply of our natural resources is not enough to, to sustain the continuous increase of our population. That's why it leads to overshoot. And overshoot leads to a depletion of critical resources or finite resources, ecological damage, and a reduction in the planet's capacity to support human civilization. It can ultimately result in a decline in living standards and a potential collapse of societies. And also, the consequences of overshoot can include resource scarcity, food and energy shortages, increased pollution, and ecosystem degradation. And these consequences have long term and far reaching implications for the well being of current and future generations. So, that's all the idea of overshoot and its consequences. So now let us discuss the central messages of limits to growth. One of the central messages of the limits to growth is that our finite resources, which means that Earth's resources are limited and exponential growth is unsustainable, which is indeed true that our exponential growth is unsustainable because of that Earth's resources are just so limited. Our resources have a limited capacity to meet the ever increasing demands of a growing global population. And exponential growth, characterized by relentless and compounding increases in population, production, and consumption, places immense pressure on these finite resources. And limits to growth argues that such growth cannot be sustained indefinitely, as we mentioned earlier, and that it will eventually lead to resource exhaustion and scarcity. All right. And the second central messages of limits to growth is the environmental degradation, which means that exploiting resources beyond their limits leads to pollution and ecological collapse. It means that when resources are overexploited to meet the needs of exponential growth, it results in significant environmental degradation and pollution. And lastly, the limits to technology, which means that technological innovation alone cannot solve the problems created by exponential growth. Because limits to growth argues that it cannot indefinitely offset the pressures of our exponential growth, and they believed that technological advances may delay the onset of resource limitations, but they did not eliminate the underlying problem of exponential resource consumption. So that's all about the general central messages of limits to growth. So now let's proceed to the World 3 model. The limits to growth are used the World 3 model to analyze and project the long-term implications of exponential growth in human population and its industrial activity. The World 3 model is a complex computer-based simulation model that aims to represent the dynamics of the world's systems and how they interact. The model includes key components such as population growth, food production, resource availability, pollution, and the ecosystem's ability to absorb waste. These components are interconnected, and the model calculates how changes in one area affect the others. The limits to growth presented several scenarios that illustrated the potential consequences of different trajectories of population growth, resource consumption, and environmental degradation. Some of the key predictions and scenarios from the book, which is The Limits to Growth, include business as usual scenario, standard run scenario, and overshoot and collapse. So let's discuss this one by one. In business as usual scenario. In this scenario, the world continues on a path of exponential population and economic growth without significant changes in resource consumption and environmental policies. All right, the model predicted that this path would lead to a global collapse by the mid 21st century, with a dramatic decline in both population and industrial output. All right. And the second one is the standard run scenario. This scenario was a variation of the business as usual scenario, but with, slightly altered parameters to represent a more sustainable path. While it still indicated overshoot and eventual decline, and also it suggested that global society could potentially achieve a more stable state if it adopted policies to control pollution and resource use. It's just like it predicts the standard level of population in the future, including industrial output, food, pollution, and even our natural resources. That would, somehow um, represent a more sustainable path. And that's the standard run scenario. All right. The last one is the overshoot and um, collapse. Across all scenarios, the common theme was the concept of overshoot and collapse. This meant that if humanity exceeded the planet's carrying capacity, a collapse was inevitable, leading to a decline in population and industrial output. So that's the overshoot and collapse. Like as you can see in here in the 2100, it indicates overshoot and collapse of our industrial output, food, pollution, population, and even our natural resources. And if you might ask what is its relevance today, well, it is relevant today because of the ongoing environmental issues, including climate change, and we can relate it to our topic today, which is the limits to growth. And also, it is relevant today because of the need for sustainable development and also the importance of long term thinking and policy making, resource scarcity and geopolitical tensions, and also promoting systems thinking. All right, so that's all about the overshoot and collapse. So these are the potential solutions addressing the issues raised by limits to growth. These are the resource efficiency, renewable energy, circular economy, and conservation. All right, the limits to growth sounded an early alarm about our unsustainable trajectory. That's why it challenged us, to rethink our path. Now, maybe some of you have already knew about this, but still, let me introduce to you the Sustainable Development Goals, which offer a concrete path forward. Because it's time already to turn those warnings into actions, which working together to create a world where prosperity meets sustainability. And yes, one of the development goals project that we're known today is the so-called SDGs made by the United Nations. All right. So what are the SDGs? The SDGs are a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity for all by 2030. SDGs means Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goals emphasizes the need to balance economic growth, with environmental protection and social equity, ensuring that resources are used efficiently and responsibly to meet the needs of the current generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So, yes, it is adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, and its significance is that it is a blueprint for a more sustainable, equitable, and prosperous world. So, I will be showing you the 17 Sustainable Development um, Goals with its key dimensions. So, these are the three key dimensions: the economic pillar, environmental pillar, and social pillar. So in the economic pillar, here are the no poverty, zero hunger sustainable development goals, including good health and well-being, decent work and economic growth, and industry, innovation, and infrastructure. In environmental pillar, here are the sustainable development goals: clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, and life on land. And on social pillar, here's the quality education, gender equality, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, peace, justice, and strong institutions and partnerships for the goals. So that's the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And if you have a question of what is its importance of sustainable development goals, the importance of sustainable development goals is because of the global challenges. It is important because of the global challenges that we are facing today. It is important because it promotes interconnectedness, equity, and inclusivity, long-term vision, that by setting a target year of 2030, the SDGs encourage long term thinking and planning, and this forward looking perspective is crucial for addressing complex issues that require sustained effort over time. And also, it promotes environmental stewardship, humanitarian and ethical imperatives, and resilience and adaptation. And actually, this Sustainable Development Goals was once asked to Miss Nicole Borromeo, the Miss International Representative of the Philippines 2023. I don't know where was the competition was held, but she picked the question that was related to our topic today. So now I'm gonna ask it to you or leave you this question before I end. And don't worry because no need to answer it right away. Just answer it on your own. Like try to reflect on it and see if you really are an effective citizen here on Earth. So, the question is, the Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs by the United Nations have targets that are set to be achieved by 2030. So, what have you done so far in terms of SDG initiatives? So, that would be all. Thank you, and I hope that you have learned a lot from my report today. Thank you and have a good day, everyone.
So, once again, good morning. I am Bea Gabotera. Before I start, who among you here have ever wondered about what the Philippines will look like in the year 2040? What kind of future do you envision for yourself, for your family, or even for your fellow Filipinos? Did you ever imagine waking up in a world where education is accessible to all, job opportunities are abundant, and our environment is cleaner and greener? So, in connection with that, I will going to discuss about AmBisyon Natin 2040. But before anything else, I will going to show you a short video just for you to have an idea about what AmBisyon Natin 2040 is.
Di tayo nauubusan ng hugot. Mula sa love life hanggang sa everyday life. Sitwasyon ng bansa at ng madla. Kaya nag-survey kami para maipon ang mga wishlist upang gumawa ng long-term vision para sa sarili at sa country. Yun bang gusto nating ma-achieve by 2040? Ito yung magiging checklist ng ating actions and decisions at magsisilbing peg ng gobyerno at mamamayan. Dahil together sa 2040, ang mga hugot, masasagot. Yan ang ambisyon natin 2040. Gina ba kayo?
AmBisyon Natin 2040 represents the collective long-term vision and aspirations of the Filipino people for themselves and for the country in the next 25 years. So, it describes the kind of life that people want to live and how the country will be by 2040. AmBisyon Natin 2040 is the vision that guides the future and is the anchor of the country's plans. So it is a picture of the future, a set of goals for the country. It is like a destination that answers the questions, where do we want to be? AmBisyon Natin 2040 is the result of a long-term visioning process that began in 2015. More than 300 citizens participated in focus group discussions and close to 10,000 answered the national survey. So just like what you have saw in the video, 'di ba nag-survey sila sa mga citizens there sa Philippines para mahimo ang long-term visioning process. And it began in 2015. So by 2040, 25 years na siya. And it was developed by NEDA, the National Economic and Development Authority. The life of all Filipinos in 2040. Matatag, maginhawa at panatag na buhay sa 2040. So it explains that Filipino will enjoy a strongly rooted, comfortable, and secure life by the year 2040. So first is Filipinos are strongly rooted, matatag. Filipino families live together. There is work-life balance so that there is time to spend with family even for members who work. So it explains that this time on weekends, families and friends enjoy time together in parks and recreational centers. There is a strong sense of community. There is time to spend to serve the community and help others who are in needs and contribute to various causes. Next is Filipinos are comfortable, maginhawa, where no one is poor, no one is ever hungry. Filipino families live in comfortable homes with desired amenities and secure tenure. So here, they have envisioned that transport is convenient and affordable. Filipinos can take vacation together within the country and even abroad. And children receive quality education so that they will become a productive member of society. And there is decent jobs that bring sustainable income, including different kinds of opportunities. Next is Filipinos are secured, panatag. Filipinos feel secure over their entire lifetime. They expect to live long and enjoy a comfortable life upon retirement. So here there are resources to cover up unexpected expenses, and there are savings. They feel safe in all places in the country. And Filipinos trust their government because it is free from corruption and provides service to all its citizens equally. Realizing the ambition. By 2040, the Philippines is a prosperous, middle-class society where no one is poor. People live long and healthy lives and are smart and innovative. The country is a high-trust society where families thrive in vibrant culturally diverse and resilient communities. Filipinos live in a prosperous, predominantly middle class society where no one is poor. Economic growth must be relevant, inclusive, and sustainable over the next 25 years until 2040. Per capita income must increase at least threefold more than the increase in income. Economic growth must progressively improve the quality of life of the majority of Filipinos. So they have envisioned that all of these sectors will become better by that year. Housing and urban development, manufacturing, connectivity, education services, tourism and allied services, agriculture, and health and wellness. So here's a housing and urban development, kaning construction, house development related manufacturing, utilities, electricity, gas and water, manufacturing, food processing, housing related, transport manufacturing and other manufacturing. Connectivity, roads and bridges, airports, vehicles, transport systems and communication. Education services. So there is quality of education for all. Tourism and allied services, resort, rest recreation hotels, accommodation, travel, heritage, etc. Agriculture, food production, commercial and industrial crop, etc. And health and wellness services, of course, dapat primary, secondary, and tertiary care, pharmaceuticals, wellness facilities, sports and fitness facilities, etc. So next is Filipinos live a long and healthy life. A long and healthy life allows people to realize their full potential and to enjoy the attainment of their ambition for many years. This is boom out of healthy lifestyle choices, new products and processes that are safer and cleaner, and certainly products that promote good health are needed as well. So here, Filipinos must also be given more affordable, clean and safe option for rest and recreation like open spaces, nature parks, and public sports and fitness facilities. And in case of illness, Filipinos must have access to affordable and good quality health care. So it is the government's responsibility to ensure the quality of healthcare and health related products for all the Filipinos. Next is Filipinos are smart and innovative. Well-educated, innovative Filipinos will continuously improve the quality of life in the Philippines. Diba, education is the key to success. It is our most powerful weapon. So therefore, government must be proactive in setting the agenda for education because it is about molding the future Filipino and creating the future Philippine society. Diba, for us to be able to have a good quality life, it always starts with education. More than that, we must ensure that Filipino students acquire the foundational literacies like numeracy, scientific literacy, ICT, economic and financial literacy, and many more. And this may require a revision of the curriculum content, but more importantly, the mode of delivery. At the same time, there must be access to lifelong learning opportunities so that competencies are continuously upgraded and updated. So lastly, Filipinos live in a high trust society. A high trust society allows Filipinos to enjoy a panatag na buhay together with their families, extending to the bigger community. A high trust societies equals a matatag na pamayanan. A high society is the most durable bedrock for vibrant, culturally diverse, and resilient community of the Philippines because there is a caring society that Filipino must feel upset if another Filipino is found hungry and poor or unable to recover from unfortunate event. But it takes root from building trust in established institutions like government. So therefore government must begin the process of confidence building by being clean, fair and citizen centered. So hopefully sooner we will achieve that vision. So we only have 17 years. 17 years left since we're 2023. So I hope that that vision will become reality by that said year, 2040. Thank you and good morning.